Welcome back, everyone. We're moving into part two of episode four of Vergence. We were just going through a door.
Ooh,
It's very
Normal.
mysterious.
that- a door that Ananke has just created in a hole in reality. Um, as you get ready to go through that door, Hrolf, you had mentioned that you're kind of keeping a general sense open of what's happening around you, and you sense a use of the power that's much more familiar than what you had experienced before. You sense that up ahead, someone has used a transfer stone.
Hmm.
You feel an opening up of some kind of connection, and then you feel it quickly close.
Do I sense if there are now more people there or anything, or fewer people? Or beings?
You could extend you're not feeling that just from the kind of
Yeah, so I
background
hold.
level of thinking that you have available right now, but you could push out into that area and try to make a stronger connection.
Yeah, I put my hand up, hold everyone back, and say, hold on a second. And then I
Okay.
try exactly that.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. So you basically want to do what you were doing before?
Yeah, basically.
Okay. So I'm going to call that risky standard this time.
Sure. Success.
Okay. Um, so you get a full success. Cool. No consequences. So you reach your mind out. You can kind of feel through this doorway that Ananke has created in the door. And you kind of push your tendrils, your kind of storm powers out in various lightning tendrils from there, and you make connections. You feel several of the same kind of point sources of power. You do no longer feel anything like that transfer stone. It feels like somebody just used a transfer stone briefly and then closed the connection. So
Okay.
that is gone now. But you feel several of those point sources of strange power through this doorway, and it feels like they are. Uh, uh, as you do that, you kind of feel a sense of awareness back toward you. So there's not an immediate, sort of nobody follows the connection to you.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a sense that somebody's looking toward you as you're looking toward them.
Mm-hmm. I psychically wave.
Okay,
And then close it
there's no
off.
way back.
Um, I guess can I initiate a communication with him?
You can try.
Yeah, I
Okay,
will.
I'm not gonna. So that's not going to be an extra roll. You already have this kind of tendril out there. You're just kind of widening it into a communication channel.
Mm-hmm.
And what you experience is sort of uh, a kind of not a communication, but a sort of vision of a howling sort of darkness.
Mm. Okay.
It does not feel anything like the statue that you had acquired.
Mm-hmm.
Were we here for the howling darkness? I don't think we're here for the howling darkness.
I guess we'll see.
Rolf doesn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Just gonna keep howling darkness on the DL.
I guess no. I say keep an eye out for any howling darkness. um. How again? Do I get a sense of how far it was?
Oh, yeah. So it's through this doorway, and the garden of statues is only about 100 yards past the doorway, that garden is sort of straight ahead from you, according to the plans that you have.
Mm-hmm.
But off to the side ahead is a set, according to the plans. There's a set of kind of apartments and living areas that are abandoned or thought to be abandoned. And your sense is that those point sources of darkness that are you kind of reached out to them and they sort of screamed back at you are over in that direction.
All right.
You have a sense of agitation from them.
Okay. I'm going to summon a creature of air.
Okay.
I can create a small servant made of animated wind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask it to basically like stand guard or like keep like, well, I guess as we're moving, like make sure nothing's coming up behind us or anything like that.
Okay. So you want to station it basically at this door area behind you? Or follow along behind?
I think follow along behind.
Okay. Yep, that's fine. You can certainly do that. What does this creature of air look like?
I think it's just like a small cyclone basically that like
Okay.
yeah kind of grows and shrinks in size a little bit as it's moving and that kind of thing.
Okay. All right. So it will follow along behind you, looking for anything unpleasant behind you that's of concern.
Okay.
I don't know if it's worth noting, but I do have enhanced senses in general with my gemstone.
Yes, you do. There's nothing immediately coming to mind there. What's happening is that Rolf's able to extend his senses out beyond there.
Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing immediately right around you that you're sensing, other than people and this new creature of air.
And Hrolf stopped us just before we went through the door? Are we like hanging on Hrolf after he kind of paused us? You mentioned the darkness.
Yeah. And I say it's not this way, so let's keep going.
Okay. All right. So as I said, it's only about 100 yards further. So you step through this doorway and continue on. There's just a long, big open hallway that you follow along. And then it opens up into a larger area that used to be a literal garden, in that there were, this is kind of this big open area with plants, and so there are now just many desiccated trees and remains of what used to be what you imagine was a beautiful space that was tended and somehow was provided with enough light to grow these plants. So there are stone fountains, and at the center there is just a huge tree trunk that is almost looking petrified at this point, and that all of the plants there are dead, but you can sort of imagine what it must have looked like back then. And then sort of spread around this kind of large oval area with a big domed ceiling are pedestals upon which are statues similar to the one that you're familiar with.
Are they talking as we approach?
Well, they're not talking as you approach, no.
How
I think
many
Ananke's
are there?
going to try and strike up a conversation with one of them. So it's a novelty to her, right? So she's going to go with the first one. Like,
So you're just walking into this room. I'm sort of assuming that you're just kind of at the entranceway looking into this room. You can proceed in and go interact or check things out or whatever.
I think the nearest statue is she's just going to busy herself with there.
He's going to walk in. All right, and you see a statue of a sort of a very handsomely solid-looking older lady, and it doesn't move, but you feel it communicate with you, Ananke. In your mind, it feels, and it speaks to you and says, "Good evening, young lady."
It's been a while since you've had company, I've heard.
I believe so, although time is of not significant material interest to someone such as me.
What is your material interest?
She starts explaining to you the specific, her academic background. She kind of presents herself as a professor of moral philosophy. And she is interested in a series of schools. So she starts explaining to you philosophical concepts and referencing to use philosophical concepts that a couple of them you vaguely heard of long ago in school, but she appears to be, if you kind of heard about them in a philosophy 101 class, then she's referring to them at the sort of advanced graduate level.
Yeah, I think that Ananke's just going to continue chatting with the statue just because of the novelty of it. So I don't know what everybody else is up to.
Valriaut is looking at this big hall of all of these statues. And like there's a moment where like puzzlement and consternation kind of crawls across his face. Well, these are hardly speaking at all. Hang on, I have this. What is being?
He's not safe.
Immediately.
And, you get a different statue appears to turn its sort of mental attention toward Valriaut and begins to give you an explanation of the precepts that one must answer in order to begin to ask that question. And this is a long and complex and seemingly bombastic explanation to you, as if you were sort of a kindergarten child asking a silly, ridiculous little question that is rather cute, but clearly you are unequipped to even understand the context of the question in which you're asking.
Okay,
so,
first of all, good. Second of all,
a kindergartner asking how the internal combustion engine of the car works, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've had this conversation. It's suck and bang and blow and then.
So I'm looking for a particular one. I presume I know what it looks like because I got a replica.
Yeah, you know what it looks like, and you've had conversations with it, so you know what it sounds like in your head, right?
Right.
So if you, so you're going to just kind of continue forward through the garden.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna kind of trust that the others can be distracting to our guests enough, as well as the statues, that they might not pay attention that I'm looking for something particular.
Okay. So you wander, so you're sort of pretending to just wander and chat with statues and just explore this whole area.
Mm-hmm.
So number of statues kind of connect with you. Most of them identify you as not interesting because you're not, unless you want to have an interesting discussion with them, in which case you become interesting. But until that point, you're just another boring, meat person who doesn't really understand what's important in the world.
I'm fine with that until I find the one I'm looking for, basically.
Okay. You do find the statue that you're looking for. There aren't that many of them. There are about 12.
Okay.
So it doesn't take that, and this place isn't that big, so it's not going to take you that long to identify this particular one, who you can identify as being of a particular school. you get the sense that most of the other statues thinks this one is an eccentric, foolish one who really is on the wrong track and should really come back to some level of moral appropriateness, because the reasoning that they have followed has taken them down an incorrect and morally somewhat questionable trail. So you have a couple of other statues that warn you against talking to that one, because it's not going to make any. Their stance might be superficially attractive, but has many philosophical pitfalls that one must avoid.
That sounds familiar to me. So, yeah, I guess I strike up a conversation with it. I say, like, I guess I bring up some, like, moral point and just kind of let it go for a little bit.
Okay.
Just to make sure it knows what, like.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
It's legit.
I would say that you've been working on this long enough. You know the kind of what you want to talk to. You've done some research on the kinds of philosophical positions that this particular statue is interested in. So you're actually able to hold your own and get it interested in talking to you. So at this point, you, among these other meat creatures, you might be interesting enough to have some kind of conversation with.
So I say to it, theoretically, what is the difference between a conscious being and an unconscious being, and is it morally unsound to treat unconscious things as though they were conscious, or vice versa?
And it starts to engage in a conversation with you, in which the purpose of which is to establish a mutual understanding of the meaning of consciousness and unconsciousness, with the kind of implication that in about a week of discussion, you'll understand each other well enough to have that conversation about the question you've just asked.
That direction is not going to work. I was hoping to convince it that it should come with me.
Well, it finds you worth talking to.
Sure.
For weeks.
Yeah. Well, okay, I tell it, I unfortunately do not have weeks I can spend here. But there is much I'm sure I could learn from you, and perhaps it might expand your own views to get a new perspective.
It expresses frustration regarding the idiots it has been subjected to in this place, that they clearly don't understand the precepts of the philosophies that they claim to have followed, and they have erred into all sorts of ridiculous places.
I have a question. Do they treat me any differently, being like a royal?
Do you identify yourself as one, or do you just kind of chat with them?
I think it would probably not be immediate. I think I'm imagining, like, while Hrolf is like walking around trying to find this other statue that he's interested in, I'm trying to keep the guide and Ananke's mother like away from that, or like out of the way. And I'm probably like, if initially they don't, like, not knowing that I'm a prince or whatever, they just treat me like Hrolf was experiencing, like, just flesh bag, go away.
They don't seem interested in your your rank.
Yeah.
They're interested in whether you can make a good argument, and if you were a peasant who could do that, you would be interesting. If you were a king who couldn't do that, you're just another boring king.
Sure. And And I think I kind of turned to Lysandra and asked her, like, is this why they left the statues behind when they expanded? They, like...
Because you're all boring.
Do you say that?
Absolutely.
Okay. A couple of them huff about that and say, "Oh, she's another one of those just petty little creatures just wandering here, hoping to be amused by talking to these famous statues."
Oh, now, are you philosophers or cynics?
Whereas another one is beginning to express interest in the concept of what really is boredom. What, they've been here for, some vast amount of time. There's nothing boring about their existence because they have so much to think about and discuss. So, so one of them is going on about the nature of boredom that you have expressed, and actually queries you about what you mean by boredom. How is boredom different than non-being?
That's an interesting question. Now she's roped in, of course, so she has to go and have this thing.
All right, so one of them starts reasoning with you back and forth.
Us. This is much less droll than I was thinking it was going to be. I want to find a cynical statue so that I have somebody that I can talk to.
You can find some cynical statues, definitely.
Huzzah, then.
So, to kind of like flash back a little and lay out a plan with everyone, I fill everyone in that I've got this statue in a parallel world, where like I recreated the room as best I could in another world, and it would be easy enough to switch. And my goal, if we are seen, is to use my creature of air as a distraction. Pretend it's, say, a demon or something like that. And in the confusion, because my abilities are flashy, in the confusion, like, make it seem like I'm trying to do something to help fight, but in fact I'm just doing stuff with statues.
Okay. You could certainly have your creature of air pretend to attack you.
Rude.
I've got bend fate. I might be able to give you just a little bit of cover. Maybe this is a room that has small alcoves for each of these things, so that Hrolf could break line of sight with the people that we have with us.
Yes, that'd be good.
These things don't necessarily attract as much attention.
Sure.
I don't know if it's interesting to you, but I thought it might be interesting if Lysandra has any reason to bring one of these back rather than just like leave them lingering here. We could, like, you could take the one away and then your replacement have her take that away, and then it looks even more normal that it's gone because she's the one who took it. As long as nobody can tell the difference. I don't know.
Yeah, well, the one I have is not as well schooled because it has not had eons to discuss with other philosophers. So I'm worried that taking it away would make it more clear that it's not the original.
At the same time, like, these guys have probably been discussing for a while, and if this one automaton doesn't have the crazy firebrand, immoral, morally bankrupt views of the other one, are they going to be like, "Oh, I like this guy now," and everybody's like, "Ooh, wait."
Yeah, right. Like,
finally, he's come around.
Yeah. Well, I also don't know if they are.
Finally, he's found the true path.
Yeah, are they gonna buy into it, or are they going to spill the beans as soon as someone else comes and says, like, "You should talk to the new guy"? And everyone's like, "What do you mean, new guy?"
Oh yeah. The statues have no connection to anybody, right? They're not like transfer stoned to the palace. Like, oh, let's talk to these philosophers. We need to call the Council of Rock people.
Not as far as you know.
Oh,
okay.
But it's not impossible that somebody comes, transfers in here and has chats with these folks.
So maybe a combination of ideas. So we convince, was it Sandra?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Lysandra to take the one, and then
Mhm.
my creature of air ambushes us, or whoever's actually watching ambushes us, and
Both things I orchestrated.
right in the confusion, a bolt of lightning hits the statue, and it becomes dumber because of
Oh,
weird
nice.
magic. Yep.
It's like a
This
lightning
is
bolt.
perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
You
I
give
like
your
that idea.
statue a bit of brain damage.
Right. Exactly.
Put a hole in its forehead.
Right. Whoops. Not our fault.
Breaking your stuff, Agorus.
Hmm.
Okay. That's an interesting plan. How are you going to go along with it? Lysandra seems definitely quite interested in the history of the statues, and you see her looking in a small volume of history, trying to piece together the history of. She knew of these statues, but she's trying to piece together exactly how and why they got left behind like this.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Well, we can. We probably should not stay here forever, literally.
Mhm.
But perhaps we can take one with us, and it can help
Hmm.
answer some of your questions.
Yeah, I think I could lead Lysandra over. Like, Hrolf's having this conversation, trying to
Mhm.
establish something he's interested in, and I
Mhm.
could be like, "Oh, perhaps Hrolf's found one that is a bit more interesting," and I'll like kind of lead over Lysandra. Do you think this one would be suitable to take away?
So as you're saying that to Lysandra, a couple of the other statues say, "Not that one. That one's an idiot."
Uh, then I say to the room at large, then you wouldn't mind having him leave for a while.
And so they start arguing with each other about that.
Sure.
Some of them seem to think that it would be lovely to have this one gone. Others are concerned that this one would be considered representative of them, and
Mhm.
people would think that they have fallen into the stupidity of its ridiculous philosophy.
It would be comfortable, but is it moral?
Yes. Yeah, some of them think it would be deeply moral because some people might be convinced and therefore choose to engage in incorrect or immoral action as a result of its ridiculous and immoral way of persuading people to do things.
The cynic and I are in the corner going, well, it doesn't really matter anyway, right?
No. Your cynic friend simply doesn't care whether this. It doesn't matter one way or the other. Your cynic friend does agree that this statue is a fool, but disagrees with the other statues about why that statue is a fool.
Of
Okay, he
course.
finds alone quite an awful lot, I'm sure.
Uh-huh.
No, they're all idiots.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah, all of these are.
just shades of idiot.
Yeah.
Then
But at least we can be aware of our idiocy.
I don't know how good they are at catching like visual subtle cues, but
Mhm.
I can say to them, then perhaps we should have this one destroyed, and I wink at Lysandra, say, like, let's take it to get destroyed.
And they continue arguing about whether that would be an appropriate thing. Most of them are against that prospect on the general principle that none of these statues should be destroyed,
Hmm.
and setting a precedent of such a thing might suggest that other meat creatures could come back and think that it's appropriate to do so.
I think we should just interrupt them and just be like, well, until you philosophize your way into locomotion, then I believe we'll be taking which one we please.
Think your way out of this room.
Right.
Go ahead.
And then they stand up and begin walking away. Yeah.
A couple of them begin arguing with you about the morality of that choice of action.
Um,
Does Lysandra?
I turn to Lysandra and see what she thinks, and
Lysandra looks at you and says, I don't think they can stop you.
They shoot lightning. Cool.
We're gonna find out.
This is D&D, isn't it? The statues.
let's roll for initiative. Then
Well, we're in a dungeon, so
I've been enjoying talking with this one, even though it's not friendly with its neighbors.
for good reason, it says.
Let's begin with this one, and then if we need, we can return and collect others. I say to Lysandra, and I begin to try to pick it up and.
All right. So you can pick it up. You know how heavy the
Right.
other one is.
Right.
It's the same weight. So it's not a tiny little thing, but you can certainly carry it.
Mm-hmm.
No-
I also say to Lysandra, this also seems like the most portable one, just for more excuses.
Okay. No bolts of statue lightning attack you. You pick up this statue.
Mm-hmm. I assume I've given people
Your
enough
statue
time
appears
to.
be, using this event as proof that its position has been correct and that it shall be convincing the royal family of Agorus as to the correct moral order, and they shall rot in obscurity while it does so.
I like this statue.
Such is life.
This is as bad as the courts.
Mm-hmm. I assume I've given everyone enough time to have all the conversations they want, and so it's
Sure.
it's
Probably not as long as the statues want, though.
right. Yeah. Say, let's get going. Perhaps sometime in the future we can return and collect more, or continue our conversations later. And I begin leaving.
Okay. So you walk out with your statue. Several of the others are irritated with your stupidity and obviously moral failings in choosing that one. A couple of them are happy that this one is going to be gone, etc. And at least one of them is upset that it was in the middle of a really good argument with your statue and isn't going to be able to finish.
Mm-hmm. But what is being upset? What does it really mean? And then I leave the room.
Wait! What is the nature of emotion as opposed to reason?
Yep.
Do they have a relation to each other or not?
Do we have? Does Ananke portal us through again?
Yeah. I mean, is our ambush waiting on the other side of the door?
So you go through the doorway. As I said, there's about 100-yard hallway going back toward the door that you had gone through. And there's nothing in that hallway. Ananke, had you left the kind of cut in reality, were you trying to leave that open, or did you allow that to close behind you?
I think if we weren't here for a reasonable amount of time, she probably just held it open.
Okay.
I think fully expecting that there is something out here because we've seen the clues and whatnot. But I think it's just in Ananke's nature to be very inviting to troubles. So please, present yourself.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to say that you've left that open. You wouldn't be able to keep it open forever, but for this amount of time, you've been able to manage that. All right. You head down that hallway. What is your servant of air doing as you do this?
Yeah, I think going ahead of us this time.
Okay. Or you could hand it off and it could carry it for you.
I think I'd rather have the extra. Well, yeah, no, because I want it to be a distraction.
Okay.
So it's going ahead of us, and maybe at some point I have it ducked down a side corridor. So
Okay.
I can pick 2 advantages for every stress. I want this to be a very versatile creature rare, so I'm going to spend 2 stress
Sure.
for.
Okay.
So it can
So-
scout for us. I can communicate it with it psychically. Um, it can have a terrifying visage, and also it acts as a human-sized warrior.
Okay.
It's just all the things. So
So you're throwing stuff into it and building it into
yeah,
the powerful warrior. Okay.
right.
You have all of those things.
And then at some point along, it uses its terrifying visage to leap out at us.
Okay.
And yeah.
So it does that. There are some, sort of side corridors. It's been hiding, waiting for you, getting ready to do this. It jumps out in front of you and bellows loudly with an enormous roar.
Mm-hmm. And I shout, "Demon, Agorus, deal with
The
it."
most convincing person ever.
Oh yeah. Oh no, demon.
I'll draw my sword naturally.
Mhm.
Statue's response is, "Oh, good heavens! Where have you taken me?"
I don't know what kind of so mechanically I'm guessing there's some kind of setup action for the fight followed by the actual swapping.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, you're essentially trying to fool, right? So
Right.
you're essentially, even if this is looking like a fight, what you're trying to get to happen is basically in the realm of commanding, persuading things, right?
Right.
Tell me if you think I'm wrong about that.
No, that sounds correct. Maybe I command the other two to like get down or go hide or something like that.
Okay. So command
Lysandra
the other
and
two.
Nanke's mom.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. So the two NPCs.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure. Okay. So you're trying to convince them that this is a real demon and that there's something scary happening.
Right.
Yeah, sure. You can do that. So you're trying to, and so if you succeed, what do you want to happen?
This is basically a setup action to get them out of the way so that I can do the swap without being caught.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So how about you make that? I'm going to call that, since you have control over this creature, I'm going to say that's controlled standard.
Okay.
I'd like to assist because Agorus's first nature just in any situation like that is to like protect people. So like
Sure.
he'll put himself in the way and
Mhm.
Yeah. So you'll put on a show of this.
yeah.
Okay. Sure.
And I think I'm just going to push myself as well.
Oh, okay.
Just lightning starts sparking all around, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
showing off.
All right. So you're making a big deal out of this.
Only 4.
And you roll a partial success. And so I'm going to say that Ananke's mother thinks that something weird is happening. She's not quite sure. Lysandra is fully on board with your kind of con here.
Mm-hmm.
Nocton is a little less engaged with the fiction,
Okay,
but
well,
is going with it for now.
that might be up to Ananke to try to convince her mom or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah, I can absolutely do that. I think that what Ananke will probably do is she'll step in and she'll play that part of the concerned daughter. So she'll try and rush her mother around a corner, perhaps.
Okay.
I think I might even might try the blood blade trick again. See if I can open a door, under the guise of we'll go through here and we'll go around the issue and you'll be safe, and then we'll deal with the problem, right?
Okay, you can do that. I'm not going to call for a roll on that. She's going to go along with it, even if she has some suspicions.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. And then what do? What do you do?
All right, and then I gather lightning all around me as though I'm trying to fight off the demon and actually swap the statues.
Okay. So you are reaching out through through the Umbra to this world that is not super far away that you've stashed this this other statue in, and you want to transfer them between those two locations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you're just doing that with the power, or had you could flash back to having created a connection using a transfer stone?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. That I would probably have a transfer stone to it.
Okay, so I'm going to say that you can do that. If this was out in the Umbra, that wouldn't require a roll, but I'm going to say that you're going to make a roll with that.
Sure.
Controlled standard.
Okay. If it's controlled, I'm just going to use a warp as is.
Yeah, warp is a perfectly reasonable action for that purpose. So you focus on this stone.
Would great effect look any different if I trade position for effect?
Let's see. Well, standard effect will get you a connection to this place, a physical connection from where you're to where you're focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
Great effect. You could open up a larger, more stable connection. You could, or you could try to make it as subtle and secret and hard to detect as you wanted. It would depend on what kind of effect you're looking for.
Yeah, I probably would want it to be as subtle as possible.
Okay, so you can trade position for effect.
Yeah, okay.
And you get a partial. All right, so so you do have a subtle effect. Let's say for a consequence for that. So you traded it down to a risky effect.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to say that Ananke, you feel the connection to, you sort of have this connection to this opening that you created in that door, and you feel that connection just blanked out.
So what do I think just happened?
You're not sure. Something has done something to end this portal that you've created. You really haven't encountered something that did that before, so you're not quite sure what it is.
Oh, yeah. No. On that note, I think that Ananke's probably going to start snooping around, looking to see if there was anything.
Okay. Let's see. So I'm gonna say. So that sounds like a study action to me.
Sounds good.
Sound about right to you? Okay. So I'm gonna say that is risky standard.
Okay. Is there another
And
devil's bargain?
So you don't have any dots in that. I'm sorry.
Is there a devil's bargain here? How much trouble can I heap upon my group?
Sure.
To understand the situation, Ananke and her mother walked through a portal and are separated now, and the rest of us are all still in a relative area.
So I'm going to say that the devil's bargain I could offer is that for momentarily you are cut off from the rest of the group.
Okay. Yeah, I was kind of thinking that was the case anyway, so I'm on board.
Well, I mean, you cut it. So, and that's going to be you're going to be kind of psychically cut off in a way that feels strange to you.
It's much harder
That
for me
sounds
to
interesting.
assist you now, though.
Yeah.
Give you an extra die, but if you're so far away, I can't fictionally help you out.
It's kind of hard to rationalize that. Yeah. So that would give you an extra die. So that would give you 1 die in study.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can figure out a little bit of what's going on.
All right. Interesting.
Oh,
You get yes. Nice.
My door.
So you feel, so you cut an exit for the two of you, for the three of you through and step through into a it looks like an apartment, a princely apartment. You can see tapestries on the wall that are moldering but look like they used to be very, very wealthy things. A big sumptuous bed, the remains of very rich apartment. And so you are looking around, reaching out with your mind a little bit, and something is you can sense there's a hallway just outside of this apartment, and there is something big right out there.
Ooh. I think at the moment, if I perceive that this is larger, perhaps than I can handle on my own, and I think in this case, Ananke might take a step back because she has two others with her. That's concerning to her, especially her mother being with her. So I think she's going to kind of just have them back behind her, and she'll be facing the door, but she's rather hoping that until she can gain some kind of connection with the group again, that nothing comes through that door.
Okay. Are you carrying any weapons other than your smallish blood blade?
No, I don't. No. She's much more inclined to do harm with her mind. So
Sure, yeah.
she has a blood blade, which it does have potency against arcane enemies.
Sure,
but
yeah.
otherwise, she's unarmed.
Okay. Because in this game you can kind of decide how you're dressed, what you're carrying. There aren't any particular limits other than how you see yourself and what's reasonable to be on you. Okay, so you are readying yourself. I'm going to say that Agorus, because you have enhanced senses through your blade, you kind of reach down and touch the stone because you're kind of trying to be aware of what's happening around you, and you can feel that extension of your senses occurring as a result, and you can feel movement around you, and you can also you've noticed that Ananke has kind of cut a hole through the wall and pulled the other two people through. That opening has closed, and so you're not quite sure what's going on with her. But you can feel several presences in sort of the hallways or areas around this hallway that you are in. You can kind of feel that kind of scratching movement, and you actually get a sense of claws on stone.
And the demon is ahead of us, playing the part at the moment.
A big nasty thing. Yep.
Yeah. So after I guess after Ananke goes through that door, the portal closes abruptly. Like it would have looked like I could have gone through a moment ago, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So with it closing abruptly, I'll kind of like look over to Valriaut, Hrolf, and Hrolf's kind of like hamming it up at this point a little bit, maybe.
Yep.
And I'll just be like, Hrolf, is this part of the plan? Like, you don't need to keep acting.
Everything is part of the plan. Wink.
Is it, or
The plan included what happens if we run out of plan, and this is what happens.
Okay. You do have that connection that you've opened with the transfer stone, so you've got that in front of you. There's there's a connection right to this other statue.
Can I do with a swap?
Okay. As you do, you can hear the two statues kind of connecting with each other and being shocked and surprised, but you're not supposed to. Wait a second, and they start having the beginning of an argument about which one is the real one. And then I'm assuming, are you going to close that after you've transferred the two?
Yep.
All right, so you reach out, you grab the other one, you pull it through, you push yours, the kind of semi-real one, the real one through. You've got the fake one in your hand, and you allow that transfer connection to close?
Yep.
Okay. So you've done that. That doesn't require a die roll or anything.
And then, real quick, I fill in this one on what's been happening. We are like, don't panic. We're taking you like away from the others, and to talk philosophy with people who are not living in the depths of a basement that have not been seen for a decade. Um, they're
I
Well,
turn to Valriaut and I'm like,
close, it says.
please prepare yourself.
For what?
I don't entirely think that Hrolf has this plan under control.
All right. As
Who
you
gives you that
say
idea?
that,
Is no one concerned that Ananke and our guide and her mother are all missing now?
No,
So,
I'm quite
as
concerned.
you say that, the wall next to you on the other side from the way that Ananke went explodes open, and you see a large black creature that is hurling a spear of darkness toward Agorus. So there is a spear coming toward you that is going to be level 3 harm unless you choose to resist it. And
I'll
you have
resist it.
ability that would help you with that resist roll, so that totally applies.
Starting at
So
prowess, I assume?
Yeah, so it's headed toward you. It's going to strike you right in the center of the chest if you do not resist.
Yeah, I'll resist. It starts at prowess, though, so 1 dot.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I get +1. It'll be 2 for that.
Yeah, if that's your prowess.
Nice.
6, full resist.
Full resist. You do well with resist rolls. All right.
Mhm.
So at the last moment, it is headed right toward the center of your chest. Tell me if this doesn't sound right to you, but you use your quick reflexes to do just a slight turn, and it slides right across the front of your chest in front of you and smashes into the wall behind you. So it kind of just kisses the front of your chest as it goes by. I'm going to call that, however, that doesn't resist all of the harm. I'm going to say that you take level 1 harm for a
Graze.
A graze across the front of your chest.
Yeah, I think that's fine. And you said it hits the wall behind me. It kind of does it open it up like visually? We can see through.
Right. So it goes into the wall, and so it hits the wall, and you see sort of a smashing motion, and then the spear sort of looks like it disappears into nothingness as it goes to the wall. So there's a hole in the wall, but the spear is no longer there.
Sure. Yeah, I kind of like glance for a second, don't see the glowstones from Ananke, and I'm like, well, it looks like she went a bit further than that, at least.
Yep. And you see a large demonic creature that has smashed through the wall and has just thrown this at you and is looking like it is about to leap onto you with giant claws. You are all seeing this, so the others of you who are there can respond to that as well.
So
anybody want to do something about that?
So I recall from the previous demon attack that demon had like a clan symbol or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Does this one have any symbology that either matches that or that I would recognize?
Interesting. You see that it has some kind of sigil burned into its chest, but it's moving very quickly, and you're not getting a good look at it right now.
My immediate thought is I'm going to warp fate around my glowstone to make it just inhumanly bright and try to dazzle this thing so Agorus can murder it. Because that's what it is.
So you want to just flash bright light into it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I want to make this thing basically the flash grenade of the Caverns of Agorus real quick.
Okay. All right, that sounds neat. How exactly are you trying to do that?
So I've got this warp fate ability that lets me make small changes to local reality. Small narrative change to add interest, but not notably change the fiction or explain the results of an action roll that can be done for free. but
I think that makes sense. Yeah. So you're kind of warping fate so that the physics of this thing are creating more light now than they were before.
Stone is special.
Okay. That's cool. That sounds like a roll with warp. So if you want to
Yeah,
do that,
absolutely.
I believe you have 2 dice. I'm going to call that risky standard, unless you want to try playing around with that.
No, I'm trying to do this as a setup action. So I'm really just trying to give my buddy here a little bit better effect when he goes to decapitate this thing.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, so that can certainly be a valid setup action that can provide increased effect.
All right, let's see how we do.
And you get a partial. So I'm going to say that you do get that bright flashing light right into the eyes of this creature. You can see as it passes by you toward Agorus, there are a series of eyes just along its whole flank looking around at you, and you can see just kind of a flash of light going into those eyes, and it flinches slightly as you do that. But I'm also going to say that as you do that, it has smashed through the wall, and there is a stone from the wall headed right toward your head, and that would bounce off your head and do level 2 harm, unless you want to do something about that.
Yeah, I'll try and resist that.
Okay.
This a prowess?
It sounds like prowess, unless you want to make an argument for something else.
I mean, unless I can warp fate to make this thing cotton candy, I think that's the only way I can.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, prowess.
Oh yeah, stress.
Right. You have a history of those rolls on resist, don't you? All right. So that costs you now. So the good news is that eliminates that harm, so you don't take any harm from that. It goes sliding past your head. So as you see, you brighten up this stone, and in the dark, the dim light of this corridor, you suddenly see this thing illuminated coming right toward your head, and you manage to duck sideways, and it goes right over your head and clanks off against the opposite wall. But that did cost you some stress to achieve.
Look, I am a wizard, okay? I am a servant of the power. I do not do the dancing and the jumping around and getting out of the way of things.
Yeah.
That is the thing.
Not quite your thing. All right, so it is charging forward toward Agorus. Is there something you would have a chance to do something about that Agorus, or somebody else could take an action? That was an effective setup action, so there is increased effect.
Yeah, I would charge at it.
Okay. All right. So, so what is it you're trying to do? So you're charging right back at it?
Yeah, I mean, you said this is pretty large. Is this like a gorilla? Like a larger than we are?
Large gorilla-sized creature. So you know about demons. You've studied demons. This is pretty large for a demon, and it looks pretty imposing.
Sure. I'll go to. I imagine this is not a thing I would be able to fell in one blow. So I'm just going to go and try to pierce it, like maybe go through its arm and dance
so you
about.
draw your blade and are trying to cut a big chunk of it off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Right,
especially on the side probably that is getting blinded, like the side that's not going to see it coming as well.
Yeah, that makes really good sense. So you're working with the advantage that Valriaut has given you. So I'm going to call this charging human. And okay. All right, so there's a charging demon heading toward you. You want to make a roll, I'm assuming, with engage?
Yeah, and then is the setup I can take as a +1 for the effect?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll roll it at 3 dice.
All right, so that would be normally be risky standard. I'm going to say that you have +1 effect to that standard effect.
Okay. So rolling 3 and get a 5.
And you roll a partial. Okay. So let me tick at charging demon with the increased effect. That's 2, 3. Okay. So you slice its one of its arms. It has 6 limbs. You slice one of those clean off. It goes spinning off into the corridor, but it is on you, and I'm going to say that it has. You take 2 consequences as a result. One is that you are knocked onto your back, and the other is that you're going to take glancing. So it doesn't get a full strike in on you, but it does slash across your shoulder. So it's got a claw into your shoulder for level 2 harm.
I would like to resist that.
That's fine. You roll well for you get all the good resist that Valriaut doesn't.
Yeah, I give him the extra. You can have that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be prowess. And does the weapon master resist only apply when it's like an unannounced consequence?
That ability doesn't apply to this specific resist.
Okay, that's what I thought. So it's going to be 1.
Okay.
Which, don't worry, it'll still be fantastic.
Yeah, correct.
Pretty good. You rolled a 5. So you did have to pay a point of stress for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, instead of getting into your shoulder, you are knocked down unless you are knocked down, but its claw is in the stone next to you, and you're looking up into this slavering beast that looks like it's going to attempt to bite your head off in just a moment.
And I call over to Hrolf at this point, and I'm just like, you are lucky that very few people have seen demons. Nobody would have believed that thing.
So I have my creature of air can fight as a human-sized warrior.
Yes, it certainly can.
So I'm going to try to command my creature of air to incapacitate this demon.
Okay, you're going to attempt to do that, but I'm going to jump over to Ananke for the moment.
Okay. Yep.
So we'll kind of see your creature of air charging in. You're kind of reaching out to your creature of air to get it to do something, and it's responding to you. Start trying to respond to your commands. But let's jump over to Ananke. So you're in this room. You have just heard a booming sound from the other side of the wall that you had come through. But you're also aware of this other thing on the that's through the doorway that you're looking toward. And as you hear that booming sound, you see a large mottled yellow and blue face with really big hunking fangs look through the doorway at you and sort of give you a grin.
Is it coming our way, or is it standing in the doorway looking ominous?
At the moment, it's looked through the doorway, but it looks like it might charge forward at any moment.
I'm going to very quickly look at Lysandra and see how she's reacting.
Lysandra appears to be frozen in fear with just like a terrified look on her face, like, what the hell have I gotten myself into down here?
No, she's not involved at all. Okay.
Nope.
Is she part of the plot?
That's what I was thinking, right? I was like,
well, if she's part of the plot, she's faking her fear pretty well.
All in on it.
I think under the circumstances, I'm going to try and get back through the wall as quickly as possible. I think that. No, I think under the circumstances, my priority is probably going to be getting the civilians here safe, right?
Okay. The wall behind you is one that you just heard a big booming sound happen through. So getting them there might not be the safest course of action for them.
Yes, I'm actually going to think I'll use my stone here and try and create an opening to get them through very quickly, because the stone is currently linked to a place that's back home, which is where I was going to send the dragon later. But in this case, I think that I need to get them out of here.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I will call that a zero stress flashback, since it was kind of all part of your plan to have that set up anyway. So there's nothing weird about having that. It's going to take you a moment to create that connection to far across the Umbra, however. So you're under some time pressure to make that happen if you want to do it quickly.
I think it's probably the best option. I am going to try and get it open before that thing charges.
Charges forward. Okay, you can do that. I'm going to call that. That's going to be desperate standard, and if you succeed, you'll have an opening that you can push people through.
Okay, I'm going to push myself.
Okay.
Is this a warp?
That warp would probably be the ability that most applies here.
Ooh,
Oh.
bad timing. I think they just
It appears so.
disconnected. All right.
All right.
The dramatic tension.
Break.
Yep. All right. We'll see how they roll when we get back. And this dramatic tension will hold until then. See everyone in a few minutes.
Yep.